U.S. authorities also keen on questioning Assange about WikiLeaks, that WikiLeaks dump of Democratic emails leading up to the 2016 election. Joining me right now, a man who has faced questions from special counsel Robert Mueller's team about WikiLeaks releasing those emails, conservative author Jerome Corsi. His latest book is Silent No More, and he joins me live on set. And this is the first I have seen you since Mueller came forward with the report, and we saw from the AG no collusion, no charges, and I know you're happy to hear that, sir.
Well, and my wife and I can't thank you enough, Trish. You did the first coverage, had me on stage, on set, so we could explain that we were not going to accept the plea deal and we were going to fight back against Assange. And I think the appearances on your show, Trish Reagan's show, were critical in our being able to launch a successful defense and not be indicted. Thank you very much.
Jerome, listen, I don't believe in innocent people being tarnished and caught up in something. You heard from Corey Lewandowski. He said, you know, there are people that are bankrupt now because they couldn't afford the legal fees. He said they tried to ruin your life. They tried to ruin your son's life.
Yes. And my wife especially thanks you for the assistance you gave us, allowing her to come on stage and talk about her son and the injustice done to interrogate him by Mueller. And this is another attack on journalism, this attack on Julian Assange. I mean, in 2013, the Obama Justice Department decided not to indict Julian Assange over these Chelsea Manning issues because they said it would be tantamount to indicting the New York Times or the Washington Post. As a journalist, Julian Assange has a right to publish even stolen materials, and I think the indictment, the 7-page indictment, was very weak on the Julian Assange collaborated to break a password. I doubt if he actually succeeded or did very much, and the New York Times and the Washington Post in 1971 worked hand in glove with Daniel Ellsberg to get the Pentagon Papers in print. That's not collaboration, that's criminal. That's journalism, and Julian Assange, I think, is being unjustly prosecuted.
That's interesting. You know, the Democrats would agree with you. We saw plenty of Democrats coming out very much against this, which surprised me because I thought they hated Assange. But then again, in the world in which we live, I guess if it's politically expedient to, you know, hammer something that's going to be anti-Trump, I guess maybe they're doing that. And so they're saying that this is payback. There's one congresswoman who's now running for president coming out saying, oh, well, this is just simply a case of, you know, you can't be a journalist in this environment because if you're a journalist, they're going to lock you up. Just look at what they've done to Assange.
Well, in fact, I think anything that hurts Donald Trump is the Democrats are all in favor of. Now, I would recommend to Julian Assange that he fight back just like I did in writing this book, Silent No More, and going on the offensive. Julian Assange, I think, can come back and prove the second shoe dropping, the double whammy. Robert Mueller says there's no Russian collusion. Julian Assange can come back and prove that Russia was not involved in stealing the Democrats' emails. And I think Julian Assange can come back and open up the Seth Rich case, where he has suggested time and again that it was this Democratic National Committee employee who was murdered in Washington during the 2016 campaign who supplied him the emails. That would complete the circle on no collusion.
That has certainly been a can of worms. But I hear what you're saying in that the U.S. should be asking these questions to Julian Assange. One of the things that surprised me during all of this, and don't forget, I mean, they somehow thought you guys were best buds. And they thought that you were talking to him regularly, and you said, no, I haven't talked to him. I don't know. You've never met him.
Never talked to him, never talked to him.
And you said, why can't they just ask him that? Well, now they're going to be able to ask him a lot.
Exactly. And they wanted me to go to prison because I couldn't give Mueller this last piece that he needed for the collusion because it wasn't true. And I wouldn't lie to save myself from going to prison. By the way, I think Julian Assange should do what I've done and write a book like Silent No More. If Julian Assange wants to write a book and get it published, we'll get it published for him. If he wants a co-author or a ghostwriter, call on me.
Hear that? Assange, you got a ghostwriter or a co-writer. Fight back.
Because Assange has information that can absolutely destroy the Russian collusion hoax. He said it from the beginning. I never talked to him. All I had to do was listen to his press conferences. Said the Russians were not involved in stealing the emails. I wanted to tell this to the
so
Mueller's.
He knows.
He knows
exactly who it was.
He knows, and he can prove it. I told this to Mueller prosecutors. I said, Dr. Corsi, we're not interested in your theories as to who stole the emails. We know Russia did. I said to Jeannie Rhee and to Aaron Zelinsky, well, maybe you guys ought to be interested in my theories because I can prove that Julian Assange is right and the Russians had nothing to do with stealing these emails.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate. Maybe then it's good to have him in custody. Maybe now there can be some kind of negotiation where we say, hey, Julian, we need to know this, that, and the other. And
well, if Julian Assange would do what I did and say, I would not, before God and before a judge, plead to a crime I didn't commit. I said, put me in prison. Julian Assange can say, put me in prison, but I'm writing a book and I'm telling the world my story, and you guys are lying. Mueller's lying. Department of Justice is lying. I was only doing journalism. And Julian Assange should say, I can prove Russia didn't steal the emails.
I mean, he's kind of been classified as a computer hacker, but
Julian Assange is not a computer hacker.
This day and age.
He publishes what other people have hacked, and the deep state hates him because he exposes government secrets. Why do we have government secrets? Because governments want to fight illegal wars. They don't want to admit to the people they're doing. That's what the Pentagon Papers was all about. That Lyndon Johnson and McNamara, as Secretary of Defense, knew in the first months of Vietnam they couldn't win the war, and 50,000 Americans were allowed to go over to Vietnam and die in a cause that they knew from the beginning was a failure. That's why Daniel Ellsberg stole the Pentagon Papers and why the Supreme Court said the New York Times and the Washington Post could publish those papers and work with Daniel Ellsberg to get them. That's just what Assange did on these papers with Manning, Chelsea Manning.
Okay, all right, and maybe
if he wants to write a book,
wasn't the Russians.
If he wants to write a book, give me a call. He needs Julian Assange needs to come out swinging.
And for the nice inscription from both you and your wife, Monica. Thank you so much.
We can't thank you enough, Trish. You've been terrific.
Well, you know, look. Hey, listen. Had you gotten caught up in this, and you would have, I would have held you to that. But my goal only in this, and I like you, Jerome, but my goal is just to make sure that Americans get the truth.
And I was vindicated because they didn't prosecute me. They wanted me to plead to a crime they knew, that Mueller knew he couldn't prove in court. That's prosecutorial misconduct. That's why we sued Mueller.
Thank you so much.